And oh man,
Live
well,
again.
no, I meant as far as just like what the hell did we just watch?
Whatever it was amazing in my
Yeah, it
opinion.
was it was something. I don't know if it was amazing. I just don't know how to feel about it. I saw like fucking cows giving birth to giant leeches, and I'm pretty sure I witnessed like Adam himself like repossess, try to recreate the Garden of Eden. I'm like, am I doing? Is this what it's like normally to be a Lovecraft fan? Can you just like clue me in on that as far as that goes right now?
Yes, it is. But before we get too into it, and I know this is a more of a
Yeah,
quicker
sorry.
one, but
I had to get that off my
for
chest
anyone,
first,
no,
Chris.
totally. But for anyone who may or may not stumble upon us right now, Dom, who are we and what is it we do here on YouTube?
We're the Talkin TV podcast. I'm Dom. That's Chris, the movie nerd, the TV nerd. We've been on YouTube for I think we're at like 6 months now, Chris. We're
Is
almost
it?
full term. Yeah,
Okay, it could be. It
I believe
probably is.
so.
You know better than me, so.
Yeah, well I know our 1 year anniversary for the channel as a whole will be in October. So we obviously got to do a big thing for that. But
For the
also
channel or for the
for
podcast?
the podcast, I meant.
Right,
The
right, right, right,
channel
right.
will
Yeah,
be a
yeah, yeah.
year old
March, right?
in March. Yeah, so
Yeah,
March of
cool, cool, cool.
2021 will be our 1 year anniversary. But Chris,
Sweet.
we're so in response. So I already did my Marvel series. It's kind of what I've been pitching. This is like piggybacking off of, and it's been a while since we've done a series, and we've got this Monday night slot open that I know you are going to be swamped as far as being kept busy, going back to school and everything. So as far as producing content, I'm back to work full time. So I'm definitely already going to have some trouble making content. So we decided that since we wanted to do a TV reaction so badly, and we saw that this show was coming out, we were like, okay, let's just do like a short form thing on like Sunday nights, like immediately after the show is done. A bunch of our friends do it, so like, why shouldn't we?
Yeah, I mean, I think this show gives you enough so far in the first two
Yeah,
episodes to even be able to do this because like I feel like we've never done anything that was contrived, forced, whatever the word you want to
I
put
don't
on
think
it,
so.
and I think I know, so I think you know so too, and so like this show, like to have to do it at a mini podcast because duty does call, the real world does call. I mean,
Unfortunately.
damn, we should honestly now let's get right into it, like you said, because
Yeah,
there's a lot to
I
cover. I
want to
feel
break this down. Yeah, I just got to pull up the names of this episode. So, real
that's
quick,
fun.
Chris, while I'm doing that, why don't you do a basic breakdown of the show, what it's about, and kind of explain its origins, how it both pays homage while not being a direct adaptation of Lovecraft's work.
Yeah, so we're talking about Lovecraft Country
Yeah. It's
on
one of those you got to
HBO,
say it 10 times fast.
and it is I don't it's horror, it's sci-fi, it's drama, it's definitely very politically topical. It's a lot of things, man. And as someone who's I've only read one and a half of Lovecraft's books and a few of his like short stories, although I don't remember them too well, the short stories that is, but I remember them being good. They just like they weren't long enough to really stick in my brain, but it's not directly based off of any books as far as what I've read, what I've researched, but it's clearly inspired. I mean, Lovecraft created Cthulhu, who is a classic character, and tentacle based character, and you kind of get some of that already in this episode, and it has
And the
horror
last one.
elements, and I don't know, to describe the show is crazy, but I guess essentially I don't know their names yet. I haven't had enough time with the show to memorize their names yet, but
The characters' names?
yeah, the characters' names, but
Well, I mean, the basic setup is that
yeah.
you've got the main character Atticus Freeman, who's a newly returned Korean veteran to his home in South Side Chicago to discover that his dad, Montrose Freeman, has gone missing. And so as a result, he teams up with a childhood friend of his as well, who's returned to town, as well as his uncle, in order to travel north through what is known as Lovecraft Country, which apparently is that. Like, you'll have to answer that for me. Is just to kick this off? Is that a real spot of land in the USA? Like, is that a real place?
I don't know.
I
I
think it
know
might be.
that if it is, that's interesting. I mean, he was a great writer. It would make sense. I mean,
Look,
but the thing is, he kind of didn't get acclaim until after he had passed away. He was one of those types
Right.
of guys.
It was
So
one of those things where the books like, and it's weird because he's also seen a little bit of a resurgence this year too. Because there was also that Nicolas Cage movie that I watched that came out earlier this year called Colorado Space. I know that was a Lovecraft adaptation, and that movie was wild.
right,
And was he an inspiration for Island of Dr. Moreau?
that I do not know, and
Okay, I was
it's
wondering
too
whether
late
that
for
was
me to
based on
speak
it.
on something I don't
Yeah,
know.
definitely.
But also this year, there's been a few Lovecraft video games, Cthulhu video games that have come out and have been pretty big hits. So he's kind of like in the pop culture zeitgeist lately in a weird but awesome way. I think he had his own unique way of sort of taking these horror tropes and sci-fi tropes and twisting them in the Lovecraftian way. I mean, that's why he literally has like that adjective,
Right.
Lovecraftian. Like, not many horror writers or sci-fi writers have that, you know?
But if there's one thing that he was not friendly towards, it certainly was race, which again is to me part of the reason why this show is as brilliant as it is so
Yeah.
far. At least from what I've seen. It's granted, here's the thing. We do have to keep in mind that this is a Bad Robot and Monkey Paw collaboration, that being J.J. Abrams and Jordan Peele's companies. The show's gonna have some ridiculousness, to say the least. It's gonna have some over-the-top moments. It's absolutely gonna have its preaching moments. This past episode that we just watched was very, very apparent of that. But I think that the show so far is off to a good start as far as demonstrating what it is that it wants. And the thing that I like too, at least so far, at least from where I saw where this episode ended, is that I thought that what we saw set up from the end of the last episode was going to be the continuing through line throughout the rest of the series. And I think it'll come back into play at a later point. But as of right now, it's looking like it's just setting up itself up to be like a different horror adventure every time. At least from what I'm seeing. I don't want to speculate about what the rest of the show is going to be. We have an entire 8 weeks left of this. So
Damn, so it's 10 episodes?
it's 10 episodes, yeah.
That's awesome,
HBO went
man.
all out for this. They haven't done 10 episodes for anything in a while. I think the last
That's
thing was
different.
Game of Thrones 6th season.
That is very different, I gotta say. You know, it feels very deconstructionist in the best way possible to me. Like with the whole, like you said, like kind of like taking how Lovecraft, you know, historically was very unfair towards race, but they're sort of like taking that and like twisting it and kind of like going against, but what he, you know, what he wrote from the angle of, but also like empowering in a really cool way. I like that actually. I do
Yeah.
enjoy the deconstructionist angle of that. Also, you know, it makes so much sense. I did not know Jordan Peele's production company was involved in this, but I got major Get Out
Yeah,
vibes from
and
this
he
past
yeah, he
episode.
is he is all over
So
this. It's so obvious how over this he is.
yeah, I had no idea. I got major Get Out vibes this past episode. Like it couldn't be any more like just in my face with it, but in the best way possible.
Yeah.
It was dope, man. So I mean, is there any specific parts of this you want to like tackle? We just watched it.
Well, I mean, of course, there's the big standout episodes from the first 2 episodes, but I just wanted to touch on the fact that I do think that, as real quick, just bringing it back to Jordan Peele, which is that again, it's so strange because this feels like it's exhibiting like the worst of his tendencies. That everything that I was afraid that Get Out and Us would eventually do, but held back on, because those two movies were for the most part pretty subtle compared to this. But also, there's the fact that like this movie also feels like a culmination of everything that Jordan Peele's been wanting to do here. Like it's funny because when this show was first pitched, I heard it pitched as the J.J. Abrams show. And so that's much of what the vibe that I was expecting here. But I got much more of a Jordan Peele vibe. Like, he is all over this thing, and I really love it because he's just letting, to me, all, like, the insane components. He's working really well with the showrunner, Misha Green, here. And they're just letting, like, their imaginations just run rampant here. And, oh, man, like, if you want to start at a specific moment, how about the opening scene of that pilot episode? And what the hell that was?
I think that was foreshadowing. I'm gonna speculate a little bit, but I really think that was foreshadowing. I feel like there is
Or,
a
like, the final showdown, maybe?
to another season tapping into a multiverse type thing. Really, I don't know if that seems a bit too, that opening sequence seems a bit too just comic booky. If that happened, I'd be kind of upset if we got there. Although it was an awesome opening scene,
Yeah.
so I hope it's more of like a setting a precedent for like we could explore all these other avenues if you just stick with this show. There's a lot of lore and mythology here to dive into and tackle. I hope that's more what it was.
Yeah,
You know?
it was very splash pagey, like it very, very reminiscent of like Avengers Endgame or like any one of those any one of those like slow mo like camera pan shots from superhero to superhero in action. That's very much what it felt like. It was like all sorts of African American iconography all over the place, mixed with Lovecraftian monsters. Dude, it literally has Jackie Robinson breaking Cthulhu in half with a bat, and I'm like,
Which was awesome, man.
I'm like, what the hell? And
Yeah.
I'm like, that's awesome, but like, wow. You know what it is? It's just a bunch of bizarre imagery that like I never thought I wanted to see, but it just adds so much to it. And that's before we actually even get into the story, which is the crazy part.
That's true. Yeah, you know, like watching. I remember watching that first episode, which that was a longer one, if I'm remembering
It was
correctly,
an
right?
hour 10. I think this was a standard hour this past episode.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so I remember watching that and being like, "Damn, I forgot until the very end when you know the monsters resurface of the pilot that we had started off in this crazy way." Because
Yeah.
it just instantly gets so rooted and grounded in
Yeah.
you know this drama and like this like you know obviously social issue that like you're just like damn, I just feel for these characters, and it just goes from being so far-fetched to so real, and I actually appreciated that. I
It's
heard a few people didn't, but I liked it.
it's pretty insane as far as that goes because the whole thing is that you're right. 1 minute it's completely grounded in reality, like obviously with the cop pursuing them and then following them and then like planning obviously to execute them in the woods. Like that's a thing that
Yeah.
happened in this episode. Next thing you know, they're getting ripped apart by monsters. Like what are they? Like these giant like mole things with tails and multiple eyes that like rip people in half in very very bloodily fashion. Like I haven't seen that much CG blood since the Expendables and the last Rambo movie. It's been a while. Like this show does not hold back as far as gore fests go. But then the next thing you know, in the next episode, they're in like a basically, for lack of a better word, a white Aryan castle, like with this weird
Yeah.
witch cult or like wizard cult or whatever. And for a second there, I thought it was back in American Horror, in like a reverse version of American Horror Story Coven, and I was just like, what the hell is going on? And like all the stuff that happens there.
Yeah, I actually appreciate the attention to detail by the filmmakers, especially in the second episode, because I thought that, they could have picked any kind of like white actors to introduce it, but the fact that they all did have that, like, the blonde hair, blue eye thing, I really think it helped like sort of like play into like the social, like, like you can't watch the show without getting the social implications, and they don't want you to just tune out if it makes you uncomfortable. Like I feel like they're really trying to say like, well, hey, guess what? Like people have been uncomfortable for a long time. You got to listen to this, and you got to start listening to this. So I think, yeah, this is a show that is multi-layered, and it seems like they're doing a good job, like sort of like, taking the fantastical and tying it in with some important things that like people are still, I'd say, dealing with today, and kind of, you know, you can't just sweep everything under the rug. And so I do appreciate it for that.
So here's my thoughts on it, is that I think episode 1 handled it very well. It had just enough of the real world attributes in order to keep it grounded and while also making it pressing and threatening enough without it ever feeling overbloated. Because I'll be the first person to admit there's points where certain points like that in movies can feel very intense and overbloated, and it's a very fine line to walk. I think episode 1 did a great job of balancing them. I really like the creature feature fun. I like the fact that it was a road movie, and for the most part, you simply saw, like, for lack of a better word, the casual racism that was a result of the time. But like, it was handled, I thought, in tasteful fashion. And then
Yeah.
as a result, and then with this episode, I feel it because this kind of became like that. Like, that was the pilot episode where you get the big celebrity director to direct this. One time it was Jan Deman, the director of that White Boy Rick movie, directing the pilot. I thought he did a really good job directing it. That was episode 1, Sundown. And then this episode, Whitey, quite literally entitled Whitey's on the Moon, starts off with, starts off, is basically like a version of Get Out, but like, almost to a T, but like if the people in Get Out were actual wizards.
Yeah.
Like, was that a thing? Like, were they actually wizards, or like was Tony Goldwyn actually Adam? Like, I couldn't tell if he was or if he was just like, or if
Yeah.
they were just crazy witches.
So let me unpack some of what you just said. All right.
Yeah, because there's a lot
I
that
actually,
was in there.
yeah, I do agree that they so far we've only gotten 2 episodes of the show, so it's kind of difficult to do this too. I enjoy this challenge right now, first and
It's
foremost.
challenging. It's not
But
easy.
yeah, it really is. And so I really did enjoy the attention to detail on the first episode, really like beating it into your head that yeah, we had a crazy cold open, but this is a period piece, and let's not forget that, there were things that happened back in that day that don't happen now, but that doesn't mean that like, it's like, we need to like accept that and understand like how to still like progress on these issues, which was cool. And so it was so rooted compared to the second episode where I don't know. I think so. I think it's one of those things where they could be wizards and he could quite literally be Adam, or if their cult, their Freemason ritual thing. And I hope we don't get like conspiracy theorists like watching this episode now that we said it, and
God, I
YouTube's gonna
hope
feed them
not.
the algorithm.
Oh yeah, I was about to say you said it, therefore it is now a
But
thing.
but like, so I don't know if it's like just the symbolism, and that's how these cults operate, and they did their research, and so they're kind of like trying to like allude to that, or if he actually was. But whatever ritual he performed there at the end, I mean, I never read the Bible, but I didn't think Adam had super witch powers
Yeah,
either.
and
So
to
I don't
quite literally
I
regenerate the
don't know.
Garden of Eden. Like, that was a thing that happened in this.
Oh my god, man. Like
Yeah.
it's just
Like,
so
you're a
crazy how
Lovecraft fan, and even you're thrown off by this.
well this is this isn't a direct this isn't directly based on his
It's funny
works,
that you mentioned that. It's not
and
directly based on his works, but it is based on something. I actually found out that this is an
mm,
adaptation from a book that was written in 2017 by an author named Matt Duff.
really, okay,
Yeah,
enlighten me right now. What's the
yeah.
deal with
So I'm
this?
actually looking it up. So written by Matt Ruff, exploring the conjunction between the horror fiction of H.P. Lovecraft and racism in the U.S. during the era of Jim Crow, as experienced by black science fiction fan Atticus Turner and his family. Published by HarperCollins.
Yeah, okay. Everything that I thought I was watching
Yeah,
is exactly that
yeah.
description, and it's such a
And it makes
cool fusion of voices. I would
yeah.
never think this would work.
It's a lot of uniqueness both behind the camera and
Yeah.
in front. Like I really am impressed with the cast they assembled for this, and we'll get into
Oh
them
yeah,
in a
they're
little
great.
bit. But like for right now, just like oh
Yeah.
man, hold on. I just realized I've lost my point completely. But
Well, it's late, but
um,
listen, it's a lot to take in. I
yeah,
don't blame you. You know what I mean? I just like it's hard to say. I think I like it so far, but it's also only been 2 episodes and they've
it
been
feels
drastically different.
right. It feels very novelistic in nature. I think is what I was trying to say. Which is again, like I think there was a reason why I was so thrown off by that. Again, it's the same way that I thing that I had to kind of grasp with Color Out of Space when I was like, okay, this very much feels like a book that I would read, literally being translated onto the screen in front of me right now. If that
I,
makes any sense.
it does. I didn't think about it like that,
Yeah,
and that just shows
like
that
that
you're a little bit
literally
more.
just came to me.
Yeah, you're a little bit more of a reader than I am, but
Yeah, I read a
I really
lot.
do. I feel like you could feel the pages turning.
Yeah.
No pun intended, but like really, seriously, like I see that a
Yeah,
lot actually.
and the metaphors were I thought they were presented in a way that felt more like novelistic. Like you would read them and get a much better like sense of them because you could really interpret them and put your mind to it. And this is instead like it's presenting it for you, but it's also like being very very apparent with it. Almost, but again, specifically with this past episode, you had the hallucinatory aspect as well, which those were the amount of metaphor and like amount of actual back storytelling that was told with that was crazy. And I don't want to say I was that guy, but I kind of predicted how Uncle George's hallucination was going to lead to his inevitable fate at the end of this episode, and also the fact that he wasn't in any footage detailing like the upcoming episodes. Really, the only footage you see is Atticus. What's her name?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
try to avoid those.
Atticus Monrose and Letty just going on their
Not
random
that,
adventures.
yeah, not that anything could have made Westworld better, because that show's just,
Well, if it had
such a.
actors like this, it would have been a lot different of a show. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, well, yeah, I agree with that. Although I
These
do think
actors
there's
actually have
some
personality.
in this role. I mean, I think it's very role dependent, but that's a different kind of podcast. I was gonna say I kind of like as soon as the episode's over, I click that exit button. I don't let HBO show me any spoilers or anything.
Okay.
So I didn't see any of that
All right.
stuff, but I because I hate it. I can't stand it.
Okay.
It's like, hey, like we have this conversation all the time. Like the trailer this day and age is the movie, and I think
Yeah.
HBO is kind of guilty of that with their
Yeah.
week to week, and it's even worse on a week to week basis in my opinion. But
I
dude,
don't
I
know.
mean,
I don't think they're as notorious only because like it really is only brief snippets and like at least for my money like I never get spoiled by it. I've just become so good at this that I can just like predict this stuff.
yeah, I also think it's like kind of like hard not to be able to predict it
Yeah.
when he's not in any of the shots, like you
Right.
said.
It's
But I mean, great performance. If it was only 2 episodes, who
yeah.
knows what can happen in this
Yeah,
world?
no,
That's
that's
the
what I
thing.
mean. And hey, Courtney B. Vance basically just ensured his guest actor drama win for next year because I mean, besides the fact that Courtney B. Vance, I don't think the man has ever given a bad performance. Like, it really sucks because after People vs. OJ, he kind of went like the opposite direction and just went like, oh, I'm just gonna take a bunch of paycheck roles. And now this role, I'm like, oh my god, thank you. Finally, you get a role again that shows what a fucking phenomenal actor you are because that guy is awesome.
Yeah, dude. I mean,
He was my favorite actor on the show so far.
I hope it's not real though. I hope like the
Yeah, I hope that
universe
like the
is
witches come back and like reverse it. It's
yeah,
Lovecraft
exactly.
Country, baby. Who knows what'll happen?
But like while I still don't understand like quite a bit of what's going on, and I think a lot of people don't.
Right.
I think I'm gonna have to rewatch this episode again.
Yeah,
First
I
off, I
definitely
really did
agree
enjoy it.
that it was very ambiguous in nature, and it wanted to give you an end. It wanted to both give you a storytelling experience unlike one that you've seen before, where half the time I wasn't even sure what I was happening. I guess it's a good thing that I've seen enough hallucinatory content like that to be able to like predict. And when like Atticus started to engage in some good times with Letty, I was like,
Right.
that's not him. I was like, that's not him. Like, I was able to get that.
But again, though, I don't know if that's foreshadowing, just like the same way that I feel that the cold open might be
Yeah.
foreshadowing. I
I
don't
feel
really
like
know what's reality yet in this series, aside from like the period piece aspects that we know from history.
I feel
You
like
know?
right now we have to kind of take each episode as it comes
Mm-hmm.
and kind of just roll along with it. You know, like we got those giant, I think they were called Skoogans or something like that, Skogans in the last episode. And we got, for lack of a better word, I'm just going to call them the witch people in this episode. And I think that's
Sure.
basically where we're going to have to label each episode like by the criteria that we match it. And hope to God that this somehow becomes a cohesive story by the end of it. Because if by the end of these 10 episodes, it's just a string of weird adventures, I legitimately don't know how I'm going to feel. So, in
But I kind
wrapping,
of think I'd be okay with that, to be honest with you, because
yeah,
if the
yeah.
performances keep up the way they keep up, and I know I was a little hard when we spoke the other night on the CG, but I actually think I'm really coming around to
Oh,
it.
I was never, the CG was never a problem that I had. I actually think
Yeah,
that's one of
yeah.
the best aspects of the show.
No, no, I know. I definitely think I was a little hard on it, and I just think it was a lot to take in that
Yeah.
first episode, and this was even more so a lot to take in. But like, I'm okay with it. Usually, I'm like on the fence or teetering, and I don't know if it's because I have this kind of like slight bias towards Lovecraft. I've always been fascinated with him, and I think it's an interesting take. I just something about it makes me like pretty like feeling good about what I just watched. Like I enjoyed it, but I don't quite understand it. It's weird. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Ray Ray gave us some hard eyes.
All right.
What's up, Ray Ray? Thanks for being here. This is a very impromptu stream, so
No, that's good. That's what I like about it. So I guess in conclusion, we're both at least I can't speak for Chris, but I gotta say that I'm just as lost and confused as I was when I started this show. But it's certainly something different than anything I could have expected, and I'm certainly going to be keeping track of the show as it goes on.
oh yeah, I'm planning on sticking with this
Yeah.
one to the end because to be
Yeah.
honest with you,
Definitely.
what quality have we gotten this year? Not
Yeah.
much. We're
Not
still waiting
much.
on the boys. We're still waiting on Cobra Kai and Mandalorian. Although I,
As of
I
right
know that
now,
those are
though,
both schlocky.
if I'm doing a little bit of a spoiler though for future content, people, you heard it here first. I will officially be going to a theater and risking my life in order to watch Tenet
Yeah,
in a
true.
week.
Lucky you. I hope it comes to the drive-in.
We'll see.
That
We'll
that's
see.
that's
I just
all
wanted
I
to give a
hope.
little spoilers there. Chris, what are your final thoughts on the first two episodes? That being Sundown and Whitey's on the Moon for Lovecraft Country season 1. Will it be?
Well, I mean, if it keeps up at the pace that it's at, I would like for there to be more. But as of now, I'm just gonna take it for what we have, which is just 2 episodes. And I gotta say, I'm very confused, but I'm also very intrigued because the characters are very likable. The performances are awesome. The setting is just the kind of weird that's just not generic weird, and I'm so thankful we're getting something kind of different for the first time in a while. So I'm all for it. But to be honest with you, this is where I'm at right now. This could
Yeah.
change because I'm gonna want some clarity
Yeah, me too.
at some point.
So real quick for star ratings, what would you give each episode individually? Because I think that'll be the best way to do it going forward.
Yeah, the
After each
pilot was
episode,
a
we'll do
slam
individual
dunk.
ratings.
Okay, I like that. I like establishing that.
Yeah.
That's because we've never done this before.
You heard it here first,
Um,
folks.
yeah, no, I like that. I like that we did this on a live. Trying a lot of new things on a live
Dude,
lately.
the lives are like becoming like the best place to try this stuff out.
I agree. Yeah, I don't know. The first episode, just going with my gut, 5 out of 5.
Wow.
And tonight's episode, like 4.5 out of 5.
For my ratings, I really liked the first episode a lot. It was a very, very good pilot. Looking for and made me want to look forward to the rest of the season. I think it told a very good, complete story in and of itself, which is something that a lot of HBO pilots do. So I give it a 4. And then this episode, I give a little bit of a 3.5. There were just points where I thought it was a very well told episode, and I understood completely what it was going for. It became very on the nose for me at certain points, and the weirdness to me just completely provided this weird counterbalance. This episode to me was kind of the polar opposite, where I just thought it didn't hit the tonal, the tonal shifts the way that the first episode did. So those are my
Damn. Okay.
ratings.
So how are you feeling about it going into week 3 now?
I'm
That's
looking
interesting
forward
to
to it.
me.
Look, keeping in mind, this is my viewpoint on it is that like it's something to watch, and that's the one thing that I enjoy about HBO is that regardless of whether I love it or not, it is something to watch that is like going to shake up my Sunday nights for sure. And it's different than anything I've watched on TV or really just in general this year.
Yeah, in a year where we haven't gotten much,
Yeah,
I
that might
think.
change soon though.
Yeah, that's true. But I think this is like even in a year where we would have gotten a lot. I feel like right now this pilot at least would have stood out for me.
Yeah. Agreed.
That's something worth talking
This,
about.
yeah, even in a crowded world, there's a reason why Jordan Peele's hit success so recently. It's because even in a crowded world, his stuff, like, it is distinct, and it does
Yeah.
have a very unique feel to it.
So Dom, real quick, I have to grab something real quick just to end the show with, but we should
Ooh.
tell the people where they can find us and about our upcoming film festival appearance this
I
weekend,
kind of
right?
want to know. I kind of want to know what you're gonna grab.
Oh, I'm
But
gonna show
people,
you. I'm
yeah.
gonna.
Okay. Well, okay, fine. Put me on the spot here. All right, people. We're the Talkin' TV podcast. I'm Dom. That was Chris. Maybe he'll be back. I don't know. I want to see what he's getting. We're on Facebook and Instagram at Talkin' TV or Talkin' TV Podcast. No G. If you'd also leave a like and a subscribe and click the subscribe button, click the little bell next to it to get notified. That would be awesome too. And also, the Talkin' TV podcast is officially stepping up. We will be on the Guy at the Film Festival this coming weekend. That's right, people. We're going to be at our first ever YouTube Internet Film Festival. It's going to be a lot of fun on Saturday, the 29th. I just want to say that right. Saturday the 29th, we will be hosting. Say it with me, Chris.
Mortal Kombat.
That was way too slow. It's Mortal Kombat.
I know, the lag.
25th year anniversary this coming weekend for the Guy at the Film Festival. We're doing that Saturday, the 29th at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a wild ride. That movie's insane. But, yeah, Chris, do you have anything else that you want to tell the good people before we wrap up this week's episode of Lovecraft Corner? That's what I'm going to call it.
I like
what
that.
I'm christening the show, Lovecraft Corner.
I like that a lot. And so first off, what's up, mid-level? Thank you for popping in. You've been popping in a lot lately. Ken, dude, you're a good dude. And I got to say, this is something new for us. We did it a little impromptu. We did it on the spot. It's kind of hard to talk about this show because it's a lot.
Yeah.
But
it's a lot to unpack.
Hopefully, as we go week to week, we'll be able to get more in depth and get some more clarity. That's all I want is a little clarity on the show. I'm liking it so far, but you can only keep me in the dark so long.
Exactly.
But anyways, I'm going to go do some reading right now.
Oh, no. No. Not the Necronomicon. Chris, you know better.
Man. I heard they said that in the show, and I was like, I have to.
Man.
Just because I have one.
Oh, you son.
Oh, man.
Whatever.
I went down a rabbit hole in high school.
Yeah, you did.
Anyways, Dom, is there a message you want to leave the people with here tonight?
Watch more fucking movies and TV, people. We'll see you next week on Lovecraft Corner.